taught in the evenings. And, you know, both Terry and I have the personality that we like to be in charge, I guess you could say.
Type A.
Very type A. We like to be leaders. We like to be in charge. And there was a part of me that always knew that he probably would never be truly happy until he was his own boss.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and I think that some people are just, you know, just that way. That's just how their personality is, and that's how they are. That's what God made them. So, you know, deep down, there's always kind of that feeling like, you know, that may come up at some point. And so one day he comes home from work and he's like, you know, there's just not a lot of good roofers in town. And I was like, okay. He's like, well, what if, you know, I started a roofing company? And I was like, okay, you know, me thinking about it, I'm like, well, we have a steady job. You make good money. You know, we have good benefits, all those kinds of things that you think about. We're comfortable. Everything's good. But then deep down, I was like, I do know that this man would be a great boss. And I do know that I think that he'd be happier if he was in that role and did have his own thing. So I was like, sure. So we took our life savings at the time and put it into this idea. And of course, when you take your life savings, I am a little bit of a control freak too, I guess, you know. I can say that out loud. I can
Sure.
accept it. I'm a little bit of a control freak. So I
Your
didn't
words, not
initially. Yeah, they're my. I will own it. I will claim it. Initially, though, it was really just him, and he had another guy that they were kind of running it together. And so I was kind of out of it, other than like just being a cheerleader and like, yes, you can do this. You know, in the background, I was still raising kids. Still on the trajectory of thinking I'm going to take over that dance company one day.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, that was still kind of my trajectory, and really had not even thought of jumping in on it. And
real quick, he was frustrated at what he was doing with the roofing contractors or whatever service. Maybe that was something that was under his. It's similar to like the concrete story,
right?
He's tired of being screwed over in a way, for lack of a better term, on those contractors. And he's like, you know what, this is somewhat of it can be a very lucrative thing, and I would do it better. I would manage it better. I'd have better quality control. Exactly.
Yeah, right. And I think that he saw too, you know, like definitely for sure there was a hole in the marketplace here, and every house needs a roof, you know. But when we initially started, it was all new construction because that was our backgrounds. That was his background. That was where his relationships were. And so it was kind of like a natural progression. And that was kind of like the door in, you know, to the roofing industry. And, but at the time, I mean, we really didn't know where it was going to go. You know, it was servicing the home builders in the area with good quality, roofing. But it was also, we kind of gave this new aspect of where we did the labor and material. So previously it was the material was separate from the labor, and you had to kind of coordinate the two. And so he had this idea of like, well, just doing a turnkey package, you know, where the company itself would handle the material and the labor. So, you know, and that took out a little bit of a headache for the contractors, you know, for the builders, because that's one less thing that they're having to deal with. The roof is going to get put on, and they don't have to worry about how it gets put on other than
so real quick,
when it needs to be put on.
Play back what I'm hearing. If you're a builder, then previously you had to buy and negotiate the material side of it separately, and then find someone to do actually like install it.
To do the labor, So there was normally like a supplier involved as well as labor.
Okay.
And I think that was always like a frustrating thing, and for him, you know, coming from that background, and he's like, you know, we can make this better by offering it together.
Yeah.
And they know that it's going to be here at the same time, and it's going to be, because, you know, maybe the material got dropped, but where's the labor? You know, those kinds of things. But if one person's handling it, then it's going to get done. So that was kind of like the model that they came up with. And
then when you were working in your internship, and then you started at Adams Homes.
Yeah.
Did you have some sort of liking when you look back towards like the roofing side, or any sort of the contracting process, the permitting? Was there something that was like, hey, that kind of, that makes sense?
Yeah. I mean, I think just getting to touch on all of it, it all kind of made sense. And, Maybe somewhere back there might have been something about the roofing that I just don't remember. I have to ask Terry that if he recalls anything like, being maybe drawn to that or noticing things about it myself. But yeah, I kind of got to touch on all of it. Obviously, he was in all of it, day in and day out. I got to touch a little bit of all of it. But for me specifically, no, not necessarily roofing. And, roofers tend to not have traditionally the best, persona, that especially because there's so many that will chase storms, and that's kind of given roofing a bad name. And so I joke and say it was definitely not my dream growing up to be a roofer. and when he approached me about it, I just was like, yeah, sure. Let's just see what happens. But I really didn't know what it would turn into. And I think that the statistics today say a lot of companies don't make it past the 5-year mark, which is crazy to think about. But we were very fortunate in having the connections that we had at the time to kind of give us that good foundation to get started. And so, that's where we started, and Adams Homes kind of paved the way for it, taught us what we knew, and kind of got us the foot in the door. So
that's great.
Yeah.